As the years advanced and his physical vitality began to visibly wane, the exhausting gap between his carefully guarded private reality and the comforting stories accepted by the public became impossible to safely maintain much longer. During concert appearances, the sudden memory lapses and physical stumbles were no longer easy to dismiss as simple fatigue, signaling to those closest to him that a severe health crisis was rapidly approaching its tragic climax. Following a frightening medical episode inside a recording studio that forced an emergency hospitalization, he drifted in and out of consciousness in critical condition, facing a stark brush with mortality that stripped away all remaining illusions. When he finally regained a measure of lucidity during a deeply candid phone conversation with a trusted producer, he chose to abandon the protective shields of denial and image preservation entirely. In this raw and unfiltered confession, he courageously set the record straight, revealing that the rumors of a degenerative genetic brain disease were entirely inaccurate regarding his primary ailment. Instead, he explicitly laid bare the devastating truth. His failing health was the direct, undeniable result of long-term alcohol poisoning and severe cumulative damage inflicted upon his vital organs over decades of heavy drinking. There was no finger-pointing, no elaborate excuses, and no attempt to soften the blow. He openly acknowledged that he had repeatedly misled family, friends, and fans about his sobriety because he was terrified of facing his own deep-seated demons. This earth-shattering revelation fundamentally altered the historical framing of his decline, shifting public perception from an unavoidable genetic tragedy to the heartbreaking, avoidable consequence of a lifelong battle with addiction and unresolved pain. The emotional emptiness that began with a quiet childhood realization in New Jersey had traveled with him through every sold-out stadium, every chart-topping hit, and every lonely night on the road, ultimately manifesting as a physical destruction he could no longer reverse. Friends and colleagues who had observed his journey from the sidelines began to connect the missing puzzle pieces, realizing that his lifelong pursuit of perfection was fueled by an insatiable need to outrun a persistent, haunting sense of inadequacy. The financial roller coaster of his career, transitioning from unimaginable wealth in his 20s to near bankruptcy by the mid-80s, further intensified the stress that drove him back toward his familiar destructive liquid refuge whenever pressure mounted. Yet despite the staggering magnitude of his admissions, the general public was still largely unprepared for the final rapid deterioration that would sweep through his body in the hospital rooms of Florida. His medical team fought valiantly against overwhelming odds, evaluating every possible intervention, including a liver transplant, but the sheer accumulated trauma of his lifestyle had pushed his physical system beyond the absolute point of return. The man who had once commanded the attention of millions across the globe was now quietly fighting his final, solitary battle against multi-organ failure in a sterile hospital ward surrounded by a select few loved ones. On November 21st, the journey came to a definitive and sorrowful end when he passed away at the age of 67, leaving behind an artistic legacy as complex, brilliant, and deeply flawed as the man who created it. While obituary columns filled newspapers worldwide with reflections on his phenomenal contribution to pop culture and the unforgettable soundtrack he provided for a generation, the most impactful revelation was yet to be shared with the grieving public. Less than a week after his passing, his daughter Katie stepped forward to share a deeply intimate detail that instantly reframed her father's entire life story into a universal cautionary tale about the true value of human existence. During his final, fragile moments of consciousness, as the reality of his mortality settled heavily over the hospital room, he offered no grand philosophical declarations, no dramatic farewell speeches, and no requests for eternal remembrance. Instead, with striking clarity and profound sorrow, he whispered a simple, devastating five-word sentence that cut straight to the bone of human experience. So much wasted time. Those few syllables carried the immense, crushing weight of a lifetime spent chasing external validation, fighting private ghosts, numbing emotional pain, and getting lost in the dizzying illusions of temporary stardom. To a man who had accumulated millions of dollars, toured the entire planet, and captured the adoration of an unprecedented global audience, the final metric of a successful life was not measured in gold records or magazine covers. Instead, the ultimate currency at the end of the road was revealed to be time itself, the unrecorded, unhurried moments spent truly living, connecting authentically with others, and finding inner peace rather than escaping from the shadows of the past. His daughter shared these poignant final words not to cast a permanent shadow of despair over his memory, but to transform his profound personal regret into a powerful, life-affirming gift for anyone willing to listen and reflect. In an era where society constantly encourages relentless hustle, superficial achievement, and the endless pursuit of digital applause, his tragic realization serves as a stark, grounding reminder to pause and evaluate our own daily priorities. We frequently fall into the dangerous trap of postponing our true happiness, delaying difficult emotional healing, and getting distracted by trivial conflicts while our most precious, non-renewable resource quietly slips away like sand through our fingers. His story challenges every single person to examine the hidden corners of their own lives, asking the difficult questions about what truly matters before external circumstances make those reflections obsolete and irreversible. The enduring power of his final message lies entirely in its uncompromising honesty, stripping away the glamorous veneer of celebrity to reveal the universal vulnerability that connects every human heart beneath the surface. As listeners and fans reflect upon his extraordinary highs and his devastating lows, they are gently nudged to hug their loved ones tighter, forgive past grievances, and refuse to let their own precious moments slip away unvalued. Ultimately, the narrative of his life transcends the traditional boundaries of a celebrity biography, evolving into an intimate masterclass on human resilience, the hidden dangers of unresolved trauma, and the sobering reality of the choices we make along our unique paths. The screaming crowds, the flashing strobe lights, and the chart-topping melodies were merely the loud, colorful backdrop to a deeply quiet, internal drama of a soul searching relentlessly for a home it could never quite locate on its own terms. By laying bare his deepest failures and his most agonizing regrets right at the threshold of eternity, he offered a level of transparency that few public figures ever dare to display for an observant and often judgmental world. That breathtaking honesty ensures that his memory will endure not simply as a nostalgic footnote of 1970s pop culture history, but as an essential, timeless reminder about the fragility of human existence and the vital importance of emotional authenticity. The grief shared by his family and millions of fans worldwide was deeply intertwined with a profound sense of gratitude that he was able to articulate his truth, however painful, before the final curtain fell on his remarkable stage. In doing so, he successfully turned his greatest personal defeat into an enduring lighthouse for others, guiding lost travelers away from the treacherous rocks of denial and toward the healing waters of self-awareness and genuine connection. The echoes of his iconic voice may have quieted in the recording studios, but the profound echo of his final warning continues to resonate powerfully across generations, urging all of us to live more intentionally. As we bring the first chapter of this deep retrospective to a close, it becomes abundantly clear that David Cassidy's journey was never truly about the transient magic of stardom or the fleeting accolades of popular culture dominance. It was always about the timeless, universal human struggle to find peace within oneself, to reconcile the scars of early childhood, and to learn how to love without reservation before the clock runs completely out of time. His life serves as an intricate tapestry woven with threads of unimaginable triumph and devastating heartbreak, proving that even the brightest lights can sometimes cast the deepest, most complex shadows in private corners. The courage it took for him to dismantle his own protective armor in his final days is a testament to an inner strength that persisted right until the very end of his mortal journey. We invite you to carry these reflections forward as we prepare to dive even deeper into the nuanced layers of his legacy in the second half of our comprehensive documentary analysis. Stay tuned, because the lessons hidden within his remarkable, complicated life are only beginning to unfold, offering profound insights that can genuinely transform the way we approach our own relationships, our ambitions, and our daily choices. The road ahead will explore the finer details of how a generation processed his loss and how his enduring artistic footprint continues to ripple through the modern entertainment landscape with surprising relevance and emotional resonance. Reflecting further upon the extraordinary cultural footprint left behind by David Cassidy, one is immediately struck by the sheer velocity of his rise and the equally steep trajectory of his professional and personal evolution. The transition from a fresh-faced television actor to a global musical phenomenon happened with such astonishing speed that it left very little room for psychological adjustment or healthy personal development during his formative young adult years. While millions of screaming fans across the globe viewed him as an untouchable icon of perfection, the reality behind closed doors was a relentless cycle of grueling tour schedules, intense promotional demands, and mounting isolation. This profound disconnect between the external illusion of a charmed life and the internal reality of a stressed, lonely young man created a psychological pressure chamber that demanded a reliable escape valve. Unfortunately, the prevalent coping mechanisms within his immediate environment, modeled closely by the generational behaviors he witnessed growing up, pointed directly toward the numbing embrace of alcohol and self-isolation rather than open emotional communication. The tragedy of his journey is not simply that he stumbled under the crushing weight of fame, but that the very industry designed to celebrate his talents was uniquely unequipped to support his deep human vulnerabilities. Friends, producers, and colleagues often noted his incredible work ethic and his genuine desire to deliver flawless performances, even as his internal foundation was quietly eroding from the relentless stress. The mid-career pivot away from bubblegum pop music toward a more mature artistic identity proved to be a formidable hurdle, as the cultural machine that created him proved remarkably resistant to allowing his personal growth. When the massive commercial wave of teen idol hysteria inevitably receded, he found himself marooned in a rapidly shifting entertainment landscape that struggled to categorize or value a mature artist carrying baggage from his past. This professional deceleration triggered a painful identity crisis, amplifying the feelings of inadequacy and emotional emptiness that had haunted his subconscious mind since his childhood days in New Jersey. Money came and went with staggering volatility, transforming financial security into another elusive ghost that mirrored his lifelong search for permanent stability and unconditional validation from the figures who shaped his early years. Yet through every financial setback and professional disappointment, he continued to step onto various stages, driven by an innate, undeniable need to connect with audiences who still viewed him through the nostalgic lens of their collective youth. That ongoing connection with loyal fans became a double-edged sword, providing moments of genuine joy and validation, while simultaneously reinforcing the suffocating boundaries of the past image he so desperately wanted to outgrow. It was within this complex intersection of past glory, present struggle, and future uncertainty that his private battles with addiction quietly deepened away from the public gaze. The intimate details of his hospital days in Florida paint a vivid picture of a man finally forced by biology to confront the accumulated toll of decades spent running away from unresolved emotional pain and unhealed trauma. When multi-organ failure took hold and the medical professionals placed him in a medically induced coma, the external noise of the world faded into absolute silence, leaving only the stark reality of his physical deterioration. Awakening from that medically managed sleep provided him with a brief, precious window of absolute clarity, a moment where the dense fog of denial temporarily parted to reveal the unvarnished truth of his existence. His phone call to a trusted producer, in which he firmly corrected the public assumption of genetic dementia and openly confessed to the devastating reality of his alcohol-related liver damage, stands as a masterclass in ultimate accountability. He did not ask for pity, nor did he attempt to rewrite history with comforting falsehoods. Instead, he stood naked in his truth, acknowledging that his choices, his habits, and his hidden fears had ultimately brought him to this critical juncture. That rare moment of uncompromised honesty represents a profound spiritual breakthrough, proving that human beings possess the capacity for profound self-awareness even when standing directly at the precipice of mortality. It reminds us that true courage is not found in maintaining an invincible public facade, but in having the bravery to admit when we are broken and deeply regretful. The ripple effect of that hospital room confession extended far beyond his immediate circle, transforming his private reckoning into a universal teaching moment delivered to the world by his fiercely protective daughter, Cassidy. By sharing his final haunting words, "So much wasted time," she bypassed the sanitized PR statements typically associated with celebrity deaths and handed humanity a raw, unfiltered mirror to examine their own lives. Those 5 simple words encapsulate the universal human regret of realizing too late that earthly achievements, material wealth, and external applause hold zero value when weighed against the pure currency of lived, authentic moments. It challenges us to evaluate our daily routines, prompting a critical internal audit of how much time we spend nursing petty grievances, chasing unattainable perfection, or avoiding difficult conversations with the people we love. His narrative urges us to recognize that while we cannot alter the chapters of our past that were shaped by absence, confusion, or trauma, we possess absolute authorship over the present moment. The story of David Cassidy thus transforms from a cautionary tale of celebrity downfall into an inspiring call to action, urging every reader to reclaim their time, prioritize emotional healing, and embrace vulnerability without hesitation. It teaches us that regret is not merely an emotion to be feared, but a powerful compass designed to guide us back toward what genuinely matters before our own stories reach their final punctuation marks. As we examine the broader cultural legacy he left behind, it becomes evident that his impact on the entertainment world was far more nuanced and enduring than standard pop music retrospectives often acknowledge. He paved the way for countless young performers who would later navigate the treacherous waters of early childhood stardom, demonstrating both the dizzying heights of global adoration and the perilous traps of commercial objectification. His musical contributions, often overshadowed by the cultural frenzy of his teen idol status, showcased a genuine vocal talent and an inherent melodic sensibility that earned the quiet respect of many seasoned musicians across genres. Yet, his most significant and lasting contribution to the human story is undeniably the profound transparency of his final days, offering a bridge of empathy between a seemingly untouchable superstar and the everyday struggles of ordinary people. By refusing to hide his addiction and its catastrophic consequences beneath a glossy celebrity veneer in his final moments, He granted permission for millions of fans and onlookers to discuss their own hidden battles with mental health, substance abuse, and regret. This cultural permission to be imperfect, to struggle, and to speak the unvarnished truth has helped dismantle archaic stigmas surrounding addiction, encouraging countless individuals to seek help before reaching their own points of no return. In this light, his life story ceases to be a tragedy of failure and evolves into a triumphant testament to the enduring power of ultimate honesty and redemption. The intricate tapestry of his life also sheds light on the profound psychological ripple effects of fractured family dynamics, illustrating how early childhood instability can quietly dictate the emotional trajectory of an entire adult existence. The absence of his parents during his formative years in New Jersey, and the complicated, competitive dynamic with his famous father, created an internal vacuum that no amount of stadium applause or platinum records could ever permanently fill. Understanding this deep-seated emotional background allows us to view his struggles with immense empathy rather than harsh judgment, recognizing that his reliance on alcohol was an attempted self-medication for an ache that began long before he ever picked up a guitar. It highlights the critical importance of nurturing stable, communicative, and emotionally supportive environments for children, ensuring they never have to discover fundamental family truths through neighborhood gossip or carry the heavy weight of abandonment in silence. His journey serves as a gentle reminder to parents, mentors, and communities about the lasting impact of emotional neglect and the vital necessity of addressing psychological wounds early in life. By examining his childhood through the lens of compassion, we gain a much deeper appreciation for the immense internal battles he fought every single day while simultaneously entertaining millions of strangers across the globe. This empathetic understanding enriches our perspective, transforming a superficial celebrity biography into a deeply moving exploration of the human condition in all its messy complexity. The final chapter of his life in Florida, marked by the rapid physical decline of his liver and kidneys, stands as a sobering reminder of the biological limits of the human body when subjected to long-term chemical strain. Despite the best efforts of premier medical teams and the hopeful discussions surrounding potential transplant procedures, the accumulated damage proved insurmountable, proving that nature operates on laws far stricter than human ambition or fame. That inevitable physical reality strips away all earthly vanities, reducing every individual regardless of their historical wealth, cultural impact, or adoring fanbases, to their most basic, vulnerable humanity at the end of the road. It is precisely within this universal vulnerability that David Cassidy's final message finds its incredible power, resonating across socioeconomic boundaries and striking a deeply emotional chord with anyone who has ever looked back on their own choices with a heavy heart. Grief expressed by his family members and the global community was not merely mourning the loss of a talented entertainer, but recognizing the tragic finality of a life that had so much more authentic living left to give if time had permitted a course correction. Yet the tragedy was softened by the profound gift of his final words, which crystallized decades of complex internal searching into a crystal-clear directive for the living: stop wasting time on things that do not nourish the soul. That directive remains an active, breathing part of his legacy, continuing to inspire self-reflection, forgiveness, and intentional living in the hearts of everyone touched by his remarkable story. As we journey toward the conclusion of this comprehensive documentary analysis, we're invited to pause and take a deep, honest inventory of our own personal landscapes, measuring our days not by productivity metrics, but by moments of genuine connection. The question he posed to his audience at the very end of his public journey, asking what one thing they would change if they could go back, invites an ongoing internal dialogue that transcends the digital screen and enters the quiet spaces of our daily lives. It encourages us to mend fractured relationships, drop our defensive armor, express gratitude to those who stand by us, and refuse to let petty conflicts steal the irreplaceable hours we have been granted on this earth. His enduring presence in our collective memory is no longer defined by the screaming crowds of Cassidy Mania or the posters on bedroom walls, but by the quiet wisdom born from his most profound regrets and his ultimate courageous honesty. He transitioned from being a manufactured product of the pop music machine into a deeply authentic human teacher, leaving behind a roadmap of what to avoid and what to cherish most dearly in our fleeting mortal experience. The echoes of his journey remind us that while we cannot rewrite the opening chapters of our personal histories, we possess absolute editorial control over every single sentence we write from this moment forward. That empowering realization ensures that his spirit lives on, not as a cautionary ghost of the past, but as a guiding light illuminating the pathway toward a more conscious, loving, and intentional future. The comprehensive exploration of his highs, lows, and ultimate realizations ultimately leaves us with a renewed appreciation for the delicate, beautiful fragility of life, and the immense power of living authentically in the present moment. We have traveled from the quiet New Jersey childhood and the roaring stadiums of global stardom down to the sterile hospital rooms of Florida, and the timeless wisdom of his final, whispered warning. Through every twist and turn of his extraordinary narrative, we have witnessed the profound truth that fame and fortune are mere shadows compared to the radiant warmth of genuine human connection and inner peace. The courage required to lay down one's defenses, confess one's deepest failures, and offer a final lesson of restraint and gratitude is the true hallmark of a remarkable human being who ultimately found his way home to his authentic self. His daughter Katie's willingness to share that final moment with the world ensured that his story would serve as an immortal gift rather than a forgotten tragedy, touching millions of lives with its piercing clarity and emotional resonance. As the final notes of this documentary reflection fade into the quiet background of our thoughts, we are left holding a renewed commitment to cherish our relationships, forgive our shortcomings, and honor the precious gift of time in our own daily walks. May his journey remind us all to live fully, love deeply, and ensure that our own final reflections are filled with gratitude rather than regret. Bringing this extensive two-part analytical journey to its final, peaceful conclusion, we recognize that David Cassidy's legacy is ultimately one of profound human redemption, enduring artistic contribution, and timeless philosophical wisdom. The boy who became a reluctant global idol grew into a man who bravely confronted his deepest shadows, offering the world an uncompromising look at the cost of running from oneself and the ultimate value of living in truth. His voice may no longer grace the modern airwaves with fresh melodies, but the resonance of his final confession continues to echo through the corridors of our collective consciousness, urging us to embrace every single moment with grace, purpose, and uncompromising love. We thank you for joining us on this deep, revealing exploration into the real story behind the stardom, and we encourage you to carry these valuable insights forward as you navigate the beautiful, unpredictable chapters of your own unique life story. Remember to hold your loved ones close, value the unrecorded hours of your days, and never let the pursuit of trivial distractions steal the magic of the present moment. Until our next reflective journey together, may your time be well spent, your heart remain open to authenticity, and your path be guided by the enduring light of self-awareness and peace.